Okay, welcome back to Newsfighters. Joining me now is the creator and host of Irrational Fear, which is about to celebrate its 100th episode, and one of the biggest supporters and incubators of Australian comedy talent. It's Dan Ilic. Hi, Dan. How are you going?
Oh, hello. Yes, I am a big supporter of an incubator of comedy talent. Right now, I'm sitting on 3 unknown comics, and they are about to hatch. You won't know their names yet, but in 10 years' time, you'll be like, oh, they were sitting underneath Dan Ilic, ready to hatch during the Newsfighters podcast.
Look, you joke, but I have to say Irrational Fear is one of the biggest supporters and incubators of comedy talent in the country. It started, I think I remember the very first one. We're at a Chaser rap party and you came up to me at the end of the night. We're like, I'm starting a radio show. Come over tomorrow. We'll write something. And then the first one was just you and I. And then the next month, Mark Humphries came along and I'm like, who the hell is this guy? And then it grew bigger and bigger. You've had everyone who's famous in that writer's room. You've had, Humphries, Nina Oyama, Hannah Mae Riley. The list goes on and on. Who else has come through there?
Generally how it works is people call me up for a coffee and they say, hey, I want to do some satirical comedy writing. Do you know any TV shows that are going? I'm like, no, there aren't any. You can't get a job. I can't get a job. If I can't get a job, you can't get a job. But if you come and write something for Irrational Fear, then that might be good for you. And it turns out the most successful people who've been as part of Irrational Fear aren't me, who started it. It's everybody else who I've given a bloody leg up to. Nina Oyama had one of her standout gigs there. Mark Humphries, one of his first big gigs. Yep. Scott Abbott, TV comedy writer, someone that's been on The Checkout and a whole bunch of Chaser stuff. Jazz Twemlow, who is on his Amazon. He's actually making an Amazon show right now.
Oh my God.
Alice Fraser. Now, Alice Fraser really wasn't into the satire stuff. She was doing like whimsical banjo gear. And then I made her do satirical comedy stuff at Irrational Fear. And then she somehow got into Andy Zaltzman's The Bugle because of it. And now she's got a full-time job making satirical comedy podcasts.
She got my dream job, a daily news comedy podcast. Damn her.
And I want to, let's not forget, people who are extremely online will know. James Colley.
Oh, huge. Yes.
He's massive on Twitter and he's also the head writer of The Weekly.
And Gruen pretty much as well.
And Gruen, head writer of Gruen and The Weekly. He sent me an email one day saying, hey, can I be your intern? And I said, sure. And so we started writing Irrational Fear in my kitchen and I went and asked James Colley to go get everyone coffees. Because I thought that would be funny because he was the intern. But it turns out he was smarter and funnier than all of us in that room at that time.
Well, I would not have started Newsfighters if I had not been looking back on photos of the Irrational Fear writers' room, seeing how famous everyone else got and saying, well, if they can make comedy, then surely I can.
I know. Not that I resent everybody else making it out of Irrational Fear, but fuck, my time must be soon. So, loads of folks have come through. And, we've got our 100th episode coming up and I've still try to find new people who haven't really been on stage or had much experience but are really good. So we've got this person called Gabby Bolt. She is hysterical on TikTok and Twitter and she makes Ozpol musicals. So
amazing. And we're back. The COVID cluster is crushed. So we're going to be on stage.
That's right. I'm really excited, Dylan. I'm really excited that Irrational Fear might be a super spreader event. That's what I'm most excited about.
Hey, the Giant Dwarf Theatre isn't that big, from what I've heard.
That's right. The new Giant Dwarf is not so giant.
And then tell us a bit about how the show's shifted since COVID. I mean, when it started, I don't think podcasting was even a word. It was a FBI Live radio show, stage show, and it's become a podcast, and you do it over Zoom now.
Yeah, that's right. So it started off in 2012. I was so frustrated that I really wanted to do like a daily show in Australia, or I wanted to do a Good News Week. So I called FBI, talked to my friends there, and said, "Can we do a live radio stream from the FBI Social," which was a room in the King's Cross Hotel.
That's right. FBI had their own nightclub room, essentially, in a pub.
Had their own nightclub room in a pub, and it was really cool. And it didn't cost me anything to put on, and it was cash at the door for tickets, and then I could just easily distribute that cash to people who were on stage.
The $20 I got was the first money I ever made comedy writing. I felt over the moon.
Yay! Well, that's the whole idea. It was
Yeah.
like, we're going to put on a show, and we're not going to do it like a stand-up show where it's like an open mic night. It's going to be fun, collegial. It's going to have a vibe. It's going to have a point of view. It's going to be angry and fast and assertive. The name Irrational Fear came from the idea of kind of making fun of media and how the media makes fun, the media makes us scared. And I kind of was thinking, well, there's only one thing we should really be scared of, and that's climate change. And that's the one thing the media never, ever talks about. So I thought, let's call it Irrational Fear, because fear is irrational, and this is what we're going to be talking about.
This week we've been talking about Australia Day, and I understand on Irrational Fear, the latest episode, you've been talking about Murdoch's Australia Day Foundation Award. Very prestigious organisation, the Australia Day Foundation, I've discovered.
Tell me about it. I read something about it today on Twitter, but you know a little bit about it, right?
There's a very big, long Twitter thing that Malcolm Turnbull, of all people, retweeted that basically explains how it's funded by fossil fuel companies, and they just give awards to themselves and to the biggest supporter of fossil fuels, Rupert Murdoch.
We've been talking a little bit about that as well in Australia Day. I don't know, did you hear Rupert Murdoch's acceptance speech? I've got it right here.
Let's have a listen.
Good evening, paying subscriber. Rupert Murdoch here, saying thanks for my Lifetime Achievement Award. It fills me with enthusiasm for my final days of planetary destruction until I die. Well, let me tell you, I'm far from done. I've ruined democracies in the UK, the USA, and Australia, but there's still pansy little democratic countries around the world that have yet to be torn apart by my lieutenants. Defenseless little New Zealand, I'm looking at you. There's a real movement to silence conservatism, which is why my thousands of publications, TV networks, and radio stations are home to them. And let's not forget MySpace, the future of the internet. Once Facebook and Google are taxed into submission, you'll need an account. You can even put me in your top 5 friends, if you like. To young people, I say, do what I do. Try to destroy everything before you die, leaving behind a husk of a planet that looks just like my heart. Oh, and buy the Daily Telegraph or the Herald Sun. Confidential this week is particularly sexy, believe me.
Oh, fantastic. What a great impression.
That is the wonderful Rupert Daygas.
All right, give us the plug. So it's February 10th at Giant Dwarf.
February 10th at Giant Dwarf. We've got a 100th episode live show. We've got Yumi Steins, Hamish Blake, Lewis Hobber, Chris Taylor, Alice Fraser, Gabby Bolt, and DJing is the old school original DJ from Irrational Fear. Is before he was Hot Dub Time Machine, he was DJ Tom Loud, and now he's like one of the most sought after DJs in the world.
Yes, playing festivals to 50,000 people, playing the Grand Prix. Incredible. Again, all you. You lifted him up. He got the Irrational Fear bump.
That's it. If you want to subscribe to the podcast, go to www.irrationalfear.com, pop in your email address, and I'll send you an email whenever we got a fresh one.
Incredible. Dan, I can't thank you enough for being such a great supporter of Newsfighters, such a great supporter of me, such a great supporter of comedy in Australia generally, and the nicest guy you'll ever meet. Thank you so much, Dan Illich. I always pronounce it's Illich now, not Illich. Illich.
Yeah, I decolonized so I could get some more jobs on the ABC, but it hasn't worked out that way.
Get some of that SBS money.
The rest of my family say Illich, so I should too, and it absolutely makes sense. So Dan Illich.
Well, at least you know how to pronounce your last name. My family still doesn't know how to pronounce mine. It's different. It's different every time.
Can I say I still laugh out loud when you have that voiceover guy go with Dylan Behan, and then you go, "Hi, it's Newsfighters. My name's Dylan Bain," and it's like, "Oh, that's great." He just undercuts his own voiceover. It's fantastic.
All right, thanks again. I'll see you at Irrational Fear 100th episode of Giant Dwarf. Super excited. See you then, Dan.
Good to be with you.